Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recap. So, September 2023. Boy, it was bland. like, gosh, it was such a nothing month. I mean, there was nothing exciting. Most of the movies either lived up to my expectations or somehow did worse than my expectations. And my expectations weren't exactly sky high for any of these movies. And overall, the month was just kind of a waste. So let's talk about it. So, as usual, I'm going to compare my own personal predictions to what actually happened because I find that to be fun. So, let's get started. So, September 1st, this is where we begin, which was technically the last weekend of summer because that was Labor Day weekend. So, first, let's talk about bottoms. This thing right here. Now, my expectations for this were very, very low. I predicted like a opening week of like $1 million and made like 5 million total. Well, this did exceed that by quite a bit in comparison. It opened with $3 million. I was like, okay, that's better than I thought. And it's made almost 11 million, but it's very close to 12. I don't think it's gonna reach 12. Yes, it may reach 12. I don't know. I it may or may not reach 12. I mean, that's more than double my final prediction of 5 million. So, I mean, good for it, but compared to its budget, which was like 12 to 13 million, yeah, it still doesn't look good. But, it could have been worse, a lot worse. And with the reception this movie got, I imagine this movie's going to gain a following. It probably already has started to gain a following. Like, once it hits, like, once, it's on PVOD or streaming, more people discover it. So, this will become, I can see this being a cult hit, but I also can see, I think it's safe to classify this movie as a tragic failure. And we've had a lot of those this year, which is, proof that quality doesn't mean everything. Okay? Because your movie can be great and it can still fail. Because the marketplace is just that cruel sometimes. So, yeah. Bottoms still didn't do well, but it didn't do as bad as I thought. And I imagine it'll gain an audience later on down the line. So, yeah. So that was Bottoms. And now the real movie of September 1st was like the main movie. Equalizer 3. This movie had a bit of a weird run where I predicted an opening weekend, I believe, like, what, 30, 35 million for the 3 day, and like for the 4 day, like 35 to 40. This opened with 34 million, which compared to the other two Equalizer movies, it's right in the same ballpark. Like, this series is remarkably consistent when it comes to its box office. Like, there hasn't been much of a dip between these movies, like opening weekend wise. And that made me think, oh, okay, this movie's may do a little better than I expected. Because it had like a 4 day weekend of 42, almost 43 million. Second best for Labor Day, which isn't a lot, but it's something. Obviously, it was never going to be number one. Number one was Shang-Chi with like 75 million. That was not going to get beaten. But hey, at least you can at least be a strong number two. But then second weekend, it fell 65%. And I was like, huh, that's really weird. Like, I know it's a post-holiday weekend, but I still find that strange because it's not like this movie had like bad reviews. Reviews were actually quite good, and audience reception was quite good. So quality was not the issue here with that 65% dip. So I'm not sure what went wrong. Maybe like, was it fan demand? That kind of explains it a little bit. But I don't know. That 65% drop was real strange. It did recover after that though. And it should reach the 90 million that I predicted for its final total. So, yay! I was pretty much on the money. So this did worse than the other two Equalizer movies, but not by much. Only by a little bit, about 10-ish%, which is more than acceptable for like a drop off for like sequel to sequel. So yeah, that this is why I labeled it as a winner. I mean, it wasn't like a strong winner or anything, but at the end of the day, it still did all right. I mean, the movie cost like $70 million and more than I mean, like 2.5 times that. It'll make its money back on PVOD. It'll be fine. It'll be just fine. So, yeah, Equalizer 3, it managed to end the series on a okay note. It didn't avoid, like, it wasn't like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny where it ends in absolute embarrassment. Okay. It managed to avoid that fate. So, yeah. But yeah, Equalizer 3 is technically the biggest hit of the month domestically. Worldwide, that goes to Nun II. But domestically, it's number one. So, September got off to a decent enough start. I mean, last year was just horrendous. Literally nothing of note came out. I know there was the Spider-Man No Way Home re-release, but when that's your biggest thing, a re-release of an old movie's your biggest thing, that's a problem. That's a serious problem. And it only made like a 5 million. So Equalizer 3, it looks incredible in comparison to that. So September started off all right. Then after that, things slid right down. Well, not immediately, because the next weekend you had My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 and The Nun II. Well, I might as well mention Jawan. Might as well mention that very quickly. This did quite alright considering its like very limited release. I mean, opened with like $6 million and it made like 14 million in less than 1,000 theaters. That's quite good. This shows you that it's just a Bollywood flick. I'm not sure if yeah, I think it is. I think this count Bollywood. I think it's called Tollywood. I don't care, but for a foreign pick, for it to do this well, that's really good. That's good for the marketplace. But I didn't make a prediction video on it, so I'm not going to really go in detail about that. Now, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. Oof. Oh no. My expectations for this were very low because this is one of those sequels where you just ask, who in the hell wanted this? Who asked for this? Who needed this? Why? Why was this made? It just makes you ask those questions. So my prediction was like 5 to 7 million opening weekend, like 20 to 30 million total. It hit 10 million. It hit double digits. I was shocked it made that much. And now it's made like 27 million. So it's hit my final prediction. So I was had a better opening weekend, but worse legs. But compared to the other two My Big Fat Greek Wedding movies, it's the polar opposite of Equalizer. Equalizer, there was like a small dip. My Big Fat Greek Wedding made about less than half of the second movie, which already made like a fraction of the first movie. So look at this trajectory. Look at it. 392, 37. Like, goddamn, that is just incredible. So literally the third movie made about its total box office was 10% of the originals. Think about that. Think about that statistic because it's crazy. It's absolutely wild to me. But yeah, it's a flop. I don't know how much it cost, but compared to the other two movies, it's a total bomb in my eyes. I don't think they're gonna make any more. They shouldn't. Like, you'd be crazy to make another one of these. I mean, the audience is gone at this point, which is something that I could also say about another movie. Well, actually, two other movies No, really one that came out later that month. That was another sequel that really, really, really didn't need to happen. I'm pretty sure you can guess what that sequel is. But yeah, my Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, it's a bomb in my eyes. Now the Nun 2. Okay. This, I wasn't expecting anything huge from this because the original Nun, from what I've heard, I've never seen it, but what I've heard, it's terrible. It's shit. It's a bad movie. It has a really bad reputation. So I thought that bad reputation was going to carry over to the sequel. And the thing is, The Nun made a lot of money considering how bad it is. It's the biggest movie in the whole Conjuring universe, which is crazy to me that a spin off of a minor character from Conjuring 2 like is the biggest of the franchise. That makes no sense. It makes no sense, but that's what happened. So here we are with the sequel. And I predicted a opening weekend of like 25 to 30 million and a final total of 50 to 70 million. I didn't expect to have legs at all. But its opening weekend was 32.6 million, which isn't too bad. That's okay, even though it is off by like a lot compared to the original. That opened with 53.8, so it's a pretty significant dip there. And it's Nun II's legs have been all right, actually better than the originals. It, but it's only made like 81 million so far. It'll reach 82 million, so it's already surpassed my final prediction, results. And it's made almost like 250 million worldwide. I mean, I think it has a budget of like between 30 and 40 million, so it's a hit technically. I mean, compared to the first one, it doesn't look that great, but by its own merits, it did fine. It did more than fine. It did great. In fact, this was number one for 3 whole weekends, which is bad because it really should have been number one for one weekend ideally, but the failures or the severe underperformance of the main two movies that came out the next 2 weeks resulted in this hitting 3 weeks number one, because it wasn't because of strength, not at all. I mean, being number one with 8.5 million, that is not strength. That is anything but strength. But the Nun 2, this proves that people still care about these movies, even though I don't think they should, but they still care. I mean, it doesn't look that bad in comparison to the other movies in the series. Like, it looks all right. So, will there be a Nun 3? I hope not, but I wouldn't be surprised if they made it. But I don't know about the future of the Conjuring movies. I think Annabelle, those movies have played out at this point. Maybe they do a Conjuring 4. I think I've heard rumblings of a Conjuring 4. I don't know. But I don't think Warner Brothers is going to stop this series until one of these movies just absolutely tanks. Like, it just does horrendous. But that has yet to happen. So, yeah, they're going to keep it going as long as possible. So, yeah. Thus, the Nun 2, it did all right. It did fine. Now, I hope you say goodbye to that positivity because you're not going to be seeing it for a while. Enter September 15th. Okay. So, Camp Hideout. Oof. So, this thing, I had very low expectations for because I didn't even know this existed. It's one of those movies that just popped on the calendar when I least expected it. It just appeared, and I'm just like, I guess I'm making a video about that now. And I really hate when that happens. But I think I predicted an opening week of like 500K to a million, like 2 million, 3 million total, something like that. It didn't even hit 500K. It hit like just under 500K, 489K. And it's only made like $1 million. So yeah, this movie, it did not last long in theaters. I didn't expect it to. So yeah, I have nothing really to say. I didn't expect anyone to watch it, and no one did watch it. And that's really it. So yeah. Okay, Haunting in Venice. This was the movie I thought it was just going to be this and nothing else before two other movies just appeared on the calendar. But yeah, Haunting in Venice, the third movie in the Kenneth Branagh, his dude, Hercule. I don't know how to say his name. I really like. I only know this dude because of his mustache. His very weird looking mustache. That's why that's why I recognize him by. So just Kenneth Branagh's weird mustache mystery movies. This is the third one of those, and I predicted an opening weekend of like 13 to 15 million and a final total of like 40 to 40. I think it was like 40 to 50 million. I don't remember exactly. It hit 14 million, so it was right there. And it's made 36 million so far. Its legs have been not great. I mean, it's been meh, to say the least. Just real meh. So looking at like compared to the other movies in this series, compared to Murder on the Orient Express, it looks awful. Compared to Death on the Nile, it doesn't even look good either. And Death on the Nile, that had to deal with years of delays and COVID and Army Hammer's controversies. Had to deal with all that. Haunting in Venice didn't have to deal with any of that. I mean, sure, there was the writer's strike and the actor strike going on, but still, like, Haunting in Venice had way less problems to deal with than Death on the Nile, and it still did worse. So, yeah. With these results, I think it's time to just call it a day on this series. I mean, I feel like making more would just be a huge risk because this movie costs like $60 million. I don't think it's gonna make that money back immediately. I mean, at least it was less expensive than Death on the Nile. That was $90 million. And the thing is, I didn't even know this was connected to that. Originally, when I saw the title of the movie, I was like, oh, it's just some random horror movie. I didn't even know this was connected to Death on the Nile and Murder on the Orient Express until like, way later on. I was kind of surprised. But yeah, Haunting in Venice, it's a flop. It's just a flop. I think they should stop making these movies. I don't think it would be smart to make more. I think someone, I remember like someone like that's involved like the character or something. I don't remember, but someone was like, "Yeah, I'm so excited. Like, I want more of these." I'm like, I don't think the studio wants to make more of these if they're not gonna make back their investments. Like, I don't think it's gonna happen. So, yeah, Haunting in Venice, it's a dud. It was a total box office dud. It didn't even beat the Nun II in its second weekend, which should tell you a lot. And then what else? Not the retirement, but I didn't even know this existed, so I'm not gonna talk about it. The Inventor. I think I predicted like 250K and a final total of like $1 million. Over like 190K and it only reached like 300K. It's just gone so quick. It makes you wonder why this was even a theatrical release at all. It makes no sense. Why release this theatrically when you're not going to make a dime off of it? Why? Just why? I don't get it. I don't get the movie industry. I don't get how these decisions are made. So, yeah, so September 15th, total waste. But wait, it gets worse. Enter September 22nd. Oh my god. Expend4ables. Ooh, you know, it's been a minute since I've talked about an absolute catastrophe on this channel. I think the last one I really talked about was Blue Beetle. But this makes Blue Beetle look just like I don't know. It makes Blue Beetle look like Iron Man. Actually, Iron Man like, in comparison in terms of box office, because this was oh, all right. So my prediction initially, like predictions from industry, were like 15 to 17 million, which would have been on par with Expendables 3, which still wouldn't have been great. But as as the movie came closer and closer to release, like I noticed something. I noticed a severe lack of energy. I noticed a severe amount of apathy, and that worried me. I was like, "Oh, this is not gonna go well, is it?" And then those reviews came out, and they were god awful. They were so bad. They were the type of reviews that would tank a movie immediately. And then so because of all that, I was like, I don't know if this is gonna hit double digits. I don't know. But then, to my surprise, it didn't even hit 10. It hit 8, barely over 8 million. I predicted like 8 to 10 million, but it hit the very low end of that. 8 million opening weekend. 8. It couldn't beat the Nun II's third weekend. Like, this should have been so easy. So easy to squeak out a win, and it couldn't even do that. And then its legs have been just awful. Fell 69%, fell 59%. It's crumbling. It's gonna be gone real soon, I would imagine. And it's only made like 15.7 million domestically. I mean, looking at the other Expendables movies compared to like this one, it is so damn bad. I can't even tell you. I can't even describe it. The Expendables, almost 34.8 million. Expendables 2, 28.5. Expendables 3, 15.9. Look at this. Look at that. Expend4ables has made less in 3 weeks than Expendables 3 made in 3 days. And Expendables 3 was already a bomb. I I don't think there are words to describe just how fucking awful that really is. That is one of the worst sequel performances I've this is one of the worst sequel performances I've ever seen, next to my Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, but at least that wasn't like super expensive. This is cost like $100 million, and it won't even make it hasn't even made like half of that back. This movie's gonna lose a lot of cash, and it just makes it's like my Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. It's one of those sequels where you're just like, why make this? What's the point? Like, the thing is, Expendables 4 is a movie I thought would never get made. I thought it would be like one of those movies that would get talked about, but then it would never like hit development, really. Like they may say, "Oh, we're talking about scripts," and then nothing happens. That's happened plenty of times in the movie industry where a movie you think might come out and then it just doesn't. It just dies in development. Expend4ables should have been that, but for some godforsaken reason, they decided to make it, and they really shouldn't have. So, yeah, and Expendables 3, that was a franchise killing movie, man. Like, that had so many issues. That was like the third movie, so like the series was already like it already lost its luster by then. Like, you already did the gimmick 3 times. By the third time, no one cares anymore. There's had like piracy to deal with because it got leaked online real early. It went to a PG-13 rating, which pissed a lot of people off. This Expend4ables it got the R rating back, but that didn't help its box office at all. And personally, I do find it kind of embarrassing when like a movie like advertises its rating like it's supposed to be like a selling point. Like, the only time I think it only really works with comedies like Sausage Party or Good Boys, where they like advertise the R rating. Like, that worked because like the type of movies they were, like what type of premises they have, like you wouldn't think they'd be R rated, but they were R rated. Like Sausage Party, animated movie. Good Boys is about like a bunch of like middle schoolers, elementary school kids, basically a live action version of South Park. Like, that was funny, that worked. Here it doesn't work. It just looks lame. I'm pretty sure this is what Alien vs Predator Requiem did way back in the day, because AVP, the original one, that was PG-13. pissed people off. People still watched it anyway. And the sequel was like, okay, we're gonna make this R rated. We're gonna bring back those fans. And then the movie made about like half as much as the first one. So you clearly didn't bring back any fans. They all dipped. So and that the same thing happened here. All those fans dipped. And like this and there's also the fact that people mainly dipped not just because no one cared about because no one cared about Expendables anymore. People moved on. They moved on to John Wick. They moved on to the Extraction movies with Chris Hemsworth. They moved on to those. They moved on to other things. Nobody wanted the Expendables to come back. Nobody did. And the people who wanted it to come back, they are very, very, very small in numbers, as it shows here with the box office. So, yeah, this movie was an absolute catastrophe financially. I didn't expect it to do well, and yet it still managed to go low, do even worse, which is very impressive to do. But yeah, this is the big L of the month, easily, by far and away, no question. It's an absolute disaster. And yeah, that's it with that. And I'm trying to wait for this to like go back to the previous screen, but it's not working. Let me try again. Okay, here we go. Oh no. Okay, give me a second. This will only take a few moments. Gotta scroll and scroll and scroll. We're in June. Nope. September. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. All right, what's next? It lives inside this little movie. I predicted opening weekend like 1 to 3 million. Final total of like 4 to 6. It hit that. It opened with 2.6 million, made like 4.6 million total. His legs are horrible. Look at that. Fell 72%. Like damn, that is just it's not too often I see a drop like that for like a wide release. I mean, I remember like the last big time that happened was The Flash. Last I checked. Was it The Flash? It was The Flash. So, yeah, this movie had pretty toxic word of mouth too. So, just like Expend4ables, word of mouth was real toxic for both of those movies. So I'm not surprised that it did so poorly. And not to mention this had competition from like Saw X the next weekend, so it wasn't gonna live long anyway. But I mean, I guess for who distributed this? Neon was it? Neon. I mean, it's one of their bigger movies, so got that going for you. I think it's like their second biggest opening, I think the only movie that opened bigger was it Infinity Pool? I don't know. But it had one of their biggest openings, so that's like a very small positive, but yeah, it did bad. No one cared. Now we move on to the end. Well, I guess I should mention The Blind, might as well. This thing that I didn't talk about. This is about like one of like the Robertsons, like Duck Dynasty. About like his story. It's done quite well for itself considering its severe lack of advertising. I didn't really hear anything about it, but it was like one of those, I guess, a grassroots campaign or something. And it opened with like 4 million, made like fell like 27% the next weekend, like made like 3 million. I mean it's made like 11 million. I mean that's pretty good considering its low profile. That's quite good. So yeah, should mention that. And now we get to the final weekend of September. The Creator. Oh boy. Oof. The Creator. I predicted an opening weekend of 16 to 18 million, final total of 40 to 50 million. This hit 14 million. It didn't even reach my expectations. And the thing is, like before the weekend, like it felt like it was going to be like a three-way tie between this, Saw X, and Paw Patrol, and this did the worst out of the three by quite a bit. It wasn't even close. And yeah, like its second weekend was not good. It was 56% drop. That's kind of fatal for a movie like this. Like for a movie that opened as low as it did, it needed to have really good legs, and it's just not happening, as you can see here. And it's only made like 27 million in like 2 weeks. For a movie that costs like 80 million, that's terrible. It's doing slightly better overseas, but I don't think it's gonna save it. So yeah, this movie's a bust. It's a bomb, and I know that saddens people because people do like this movie. You know, I've heard people like really like it, but overall the reaction's been like good, not great. And for original sci-fi, you need to be great in order to do well. Because this movie doesn't have a safety net of IP. It doesn't have that. This movie lives or dies if people care. And people clearly did not care, or not enough people cared. So, yeah, just. It's sad, but I feel like it will gain a following. I see it definitely gaining a following. Probably once it hits like streaming or something, when it hits like Hulu or something, it'll gain more of a following. But yeah, in theaters, it's a bomb. It's just a bomb. I know that makes some of you sad, but that's just how it is. Sorry, can't help it. Facts are facts. So yeah, yeah, the creator really tanked, but it didn't do as bad as Dumb Money right here. So if it loads, waiting for it to pop up. Here we go. All right, Dumb Money. Ugh, like the thing, I had kind of high expectations for this. They weren't like super ridiculously high or anything, but I thought it would open with like in the teens initially. But boy, I was so damn wrong. But my prediction was like way in advance, like a month or so in advance. But this movie, it had some date changes, partially because of Taylor Swift. But this movie had like a platform launch where it opened like a few theaters, then it expanded again. That was what they did. And even in limited release, it didn't go great. 27K per theater average. That's not great. You need like a high one. You need like 100K or 75K. You need something strong to really, make people, get that publicity, right? And then it went wide technically. The 22nd only made like 2 million. I was like, "Oh god, this is not going the way I thought it would." And then it opened like 2.8 K theaters to 2,800 theaters. I'm like, okay, this should open with like five. I think it was like five or less, like 5 million or less, and a final total of like 10 to 15. Open with 3 million. Like literally, it expanded to over 4 times the theaters and only went up like 37%. Like look at that per theater average. It fucking tanked so hard. This movie just died out there, and it had a good weekend afterwards. 36%. That's not bad, but it doesn't matter. It really just doesn't. Like the damage is done, so it's too little, too late. But it will reach my 10 to 15 million. So I mean, it's already reached like 11.5. So that's something. It reached my adjusted predictions, but that's not a good thing because my predictions were very, very low. And I thought this, I don't know, part of me felt like this movie would have done better. I feel like definitely those strikes, I feel like that definitely hurt this movie because you lack PR. You couldn't do like late night shows or anything to like prop it up. Couldn't do any of that. So yeah, this movie was basically like thrown out there, and Sony just like hoped against hope people would care, and they did not. So yeah. Yeah, and this was well received too, so another tragic flop. So yeah, and I guess, I guess the only people who really cared were Redditors. They're the only people who really gave a damn about this movie because obviously, I remember like 2 years ago when the whole story about this, like the story that was about that the movie's based on. I remember that whole thing going down on like Reddit and like GameStop stock, like meme stock and whatnot. It was a big moment. It was kind of awesome, and I thought maybe that could make an interesting movie. Maybe it could be like a social network type movie or something. Boy, that did not happen at all. I don't know. Maybe this movie was just too niche. I don't know. But yeah, the movie it tanked. It did bad. And we're gonna move on. Oh, okay. Two more movies to talk about. I know they stopped making sense. Let's talk about this very, very fast. So this was a 1984 movie that got a re-release this year, and oh, gotta scroll down. I mean, considering its lack of theaters, it did all right. You know, it helps that this was distributed by A24, right? Yeah, A24 distributed it, so it was only like an IMAX, but I guess it did all right. But Paw Patrol the Mighty Movie, okay, this thing right here. So I predicted an opening weekend of like 20 million, a final total of like 60 to 80 million. Jury's still out on that final total, but its opening weekend opened with like 22.7 million, which is quite all right for September standards. And compared to the first movie, it's a really high increase. Like that opened with 13 million. Keep in mind that first movie had to deal with COVID, a COVID ravaged marketplace, it had to deal with Paramount Plus. It had to deal with the fact that some theaters just straight up refused to show the movie because of Paramount Plus. Had to deal with all that. And it still did all right for itself, which is why the sequel even exists. But yeah, the fact that Paw Patrol the My Movie opened like way higher than the first movie, that's good. It's already surpassed the first movie's box office domestically, not worldwide, but domestically, it's already passed it. So that's really good. Obviously. Its second weekend was kind of weird. It felt like 50%, which is really odd for a movie that is, that's a family film. That's like, that skews real young. I find that strange. But it's it'll probably recover after this. I mean, what else are kids are gonna watch? Like what else? Like what are your options? Like I mean, I guess the closest thing you got really before Trolls World, no Trolls Band Together. That's like mid November. It's like the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, I guess, because kids are gonna watch that because it's PG-13. They're allowed to see it. But I feel like besides that, you got nothing. So I feel like this movie may reach that 60 million mark. It should. It'll make money. It's already made back its budget, so like it's fine. I know a third movie's supposed to come out in like 3 years, so obviously. So yeah, I would consider it a hit, solid hit. I mean, compared to the rest of September, oof, like this was like a nice thing to happen. A movie that just does well. Like after like 2 weeks of just straight awfulness, you had a movie that actually made some money, that actually did well, and that wasn't the only movie. Finally, you have Saw X, Saw X or Saw 10. I call it Saw X. So Saw X, I predicted an opening weekend of like 18 to 20 million and a final total of 40 million. It hit 18 million, 18.3 million. And its final total, it should reach 40 million at its rate. It should. Because this movie had a pretty okay second weekend for Saw standards, like fell 57%. Like some of the Saw movies, they fall like in the high 60s. Like it's rough. But this its legs are comparatively better, and it helps that. And this movie had to deal with The Exorcist Believer, like direct competition. So I say that second weekend's pretty all right. And I should mention like the reviews for this movie, they shocked the hell out of me. Like, I thought this movie would have reviews would be like 40, 50% at best. They were in the 80s. The 80s. And it boggled my mind. I was like, what the hell is going on here? Something's not right. This is not. Is this real? Like, it just was so weird to see a Saw movie score so high. And I did watch the movie. This was the only movie in September I watched. It was the only movie I cared about, really, because I'm a hardcore Saw fan. So obviously I was going to watch this. And I watched it, and it is quite good. I was like, that score is somewhat justified. I'd probably rank it lower in like the 70s, but the movie is way better and has any right to be considered. This is the 10th movie in the series. Like, with like what it does with John Kramer, like, the movie's all about him, which is probably, the best decision they could have made, because John Kramer's Jigsaw, or Tobin Bell's Jigsaw, my bad, Tobin Bell, John Kramer, Jigsaw, he's like the one thing people love about this whole series, really. So to have him in the forefront of this was a brilliant decision. And the fact that this movie, it focused more on like characters and actually having a strong plot instead of things just happening or the movie being bogged down by detective stuff. Like, that was good. I was like, this is good. This is different. This is a good type of different. I like this. So, yeah, I would highly recommend you watching Saw X. You know, please watch this. Do not watch Exorcist Believer. Don't do that. Please don't. I don't even want to watch Exorcist Believer. I've heard awful things. Watch Saw X instead. You'll have a much better time, believe me. So, but yeah, with Saw X, this movie was cheap. It cost like $13 million. It's already made back its money, so it's a hit, definitely. And compared to the other Saw movies, sure, it's nowhere near the best. The series peaked like 17 years ago, like way long ago, with like Saw 2 and Saw 3, and then it was a downhill slide ever since, where it crashed with 6, went up with 3D, went down with Jigsaw after like a 7-year gap, and then bottomed out again with Spiral, then went up back again with X. So Saw X should at least surpass Jigsaw domestically, so it won't be the worst performing movie. So that's good. So yeah, Saw X, I'm glad it did well. Good movie. And yeah, that's it for September. That's really it. Yeah, September was real bleh. Nothing like super exciting happened. And if there was anything exciting, it was all the wrong stuff. Like Expend4ables, just catastrophic run. That was exciting for all the wrong reasons. So, yeah. September was bleh. So now we're in October. Might as well skim through October. Exorcist Believer had a pretty bleh opening weekend, and reviews and word of mouth is so bad, I expect it to just crumble real quick. I don't expect this to go, I don't expect this to have like a long life. Then, like tomorrow, well, I guess technically tonight, you have the Taylor Swift Eras Tour. That is expected to be the biggest event since Barbenheimer. And I hope it is, because man, like the box office really needs like a big movie, because we haven't had anything like that since Barbenheimer. So yeah, so the Taylor Swift Eras Tour, that's going to be like the big movie or moment of October, definitely. And then we still have Killers of the Flower Moon. Ugh, I my I don't think it's gonna do that well. I wanted, like, it has the cast, it has the director, it has the reviews, but that budget, that runtime, I don't see this making. I don't see this being a hit. I'm sorry. I'd be surprised if it did well, but I don't see it being a success. Then you got Dixon musical. I don't know how the hell how that's gonna do. I have no clue. I'm not even gonna try to predict that now. Then you got the end of October, a bunch of bleh movies coming out, with the exception of Five Nights at Freddy's. That should do all right, considering the IP and the fact that it's right before Halloween. Even with it premiering on Peacock at the same time, it should at least have a decent opening weekend before it falls off the face of the earth. And that's what October looks like. So yeah, and that's it. So yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage, all previous recap videos I made on the channel. The next recap will be October, obviously, and that will come out. I'm gonna say the first week of November, probably in between Priscilla, before the Marvels comes out. Let's say that before the Marvels comes out, it'll come out then. So stay tuned for that video. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos I made on the channel, you can go right ahead. There's also box office predictions where I predict box office for movies. Tomorrow, I do the Taylor Swift Eras Tour. That is going to be something to talk about because I've seen like tickets. I've looked at Fandango just to get like a get a sense of how things are, and I'd look at like showtimes, and it's just like sold out. Bunch of great X's everywhere, which means seats sold out. I'm like, God damn, this is going to be something to witness, witnessing its box office. So, yeah, that will be quite a video to discuss. So, stay tuned for that tomorrow. So, but if you want to watch any of the past prediction videos I made on the channel, pretty much every movie I talked about in like real detail, I made prediction videos for those. So you want to watch any of those, go right ahead. And there's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. There are 210 episodes. Yeah, 210 episodes. And the fact that the actor strike, like the talks have broken down completely, that makes me think we're gonna be seeing more delays soon. So you want to watch any? So be prepared for future canceled episodes. Okay, be on the lookout because they might happen sooner than you think. So be warned. I'm warning you now. So, but if you want to watch any of the past cancel episodes I made on the channel, you want to binge them all from beginning to now, I highly encourage you to do that. So go do it. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.